Our guest today is Magalie, the multilingual founder of Koree, who learned languages by listening to songs and translating the lyrics. She's traveled to 33 countries and made the bold move to live in Africa after being born and raised in France. Her company Koree draws inspiration from the cowry shells that were once used as currency in Africa, symbolizing a return to roots with cutting-edge technology. In her inspiring talk, Magalie shares how she's thriving as a solo, non-technical female fintech founder with ADHD in Africa. And here she is.
How am I thriving as a solo female ADHD non-technical fintech founder in Africa? That's a long title. It is heavy and it is heavy to bear. My name is Magalie Gauze-Sanga. I am half Cameroonian and half Ivorian. My father is from Ivory Coast, my mother is from Cameroon. Anybody from Cameroon here? Yeah, represent. Okay, anybody from Ivory Coast? Wow. Okay, so I guess we're just two here. When I was younger, I was very energetic. I was just scattered, very energetic, all over the place, running everywhere. And I remember being always in troubles in class, and my teachers would always tell my parents that I should channel my energy. So what my parents did was they put me in sports. I used to play so many different sports, up to being forced to play up to 15 hours per week of sports just to calm me down. And that was like 2 hours per day, every day for 6 days a week. And honestly, I didn't even feel tired. That's how much energetic I was. During my youth, my parents never told me that I had ADHD. So I had a test when I was 9 years old, but I never received the results. And at some point, when I grew up and I was older, I always wondered why I was thinking the way I was thinking, why I was doing the things that I was doing. And it got to the point where I started to look on the internet to understand me better. And I found the answers to my questions on the internet. And I actually got tested myself when I was way older. And I went back to my parents telling them, hey, I have ADHD. And they were like, yeah, we know. And I was like, why didn't you tell me? And they were like, we didn't want you to be put into boxes or to feel different. I thought it was a great thing, although I didn't take medication, so that has had a bit of impact on my life. We'll get back on that later. But yeah, all in all, really the energetic youth. And school was so terrible to me. It was a terrible experience. I tripled, double classes, but somehow I managed to integrate a graduate from the most prestigious institutions in France, because I understood very early that in order to have a high salary, you had to have good diplomas from the best schools. So what I did is I managed, even though I had ADHD and I couldn't sit still, and I was always procrastinating, and I couldn't really take notes. I managed to graduate from the Panthéon-Sorbonne, which is a school in Paris, and I also managed to graduate from EM Lyon Business School, which is one of the best business schools in France. And that laid the foundation for my self-confidence, because even though I had these issues focusing and I had issues just getting things done, I proved myself that I could do it. And it's very important. Why? Because now that I'm a founder, I always use this example to remember whenever I'm having a hard time. I always use this example to remember that I can do it, because this is an illustration that already happened in my life. So I'm the founder of Koree. Koree is an application, a mobile application, that helps customers create loyalty cards at the till whenever there's a spare change issue at the till. So I live in Cameroon, as the introduction told y'all. I was born and raised in France, but I decided to move back to Africa. And when I came to Africa, the first thing that struck me was there was a spare change issue, especially in Francophone countries. I don't know if any of you have traveled to Cameroon, Senegal, Benin, or anywhere in Francophone countries, sub-Saharan Francophone countries. There's a spare change issue that leads to distortion of payments, meaning when you go at the till and you try to pay something with a bill of high value, then the cashier will generally tell you that they don't have spare change to give back to you. So what I did is, me being in the payments industry, I thought it would be interesting to create a product that will help customers collect their spare change. And I thought about it while working for a technical company and touring throughout Western and Central Africa. After my graduation, I was able to land a job in Abidjan, Ivory Coast, and I was also able to join Jumia where I was the first head of financial services for West Africa. I stayed there, and this is where I learned about cashback. I had never learned of it before. And at Jumia, I understood that boosting the loyalty of customers could be a very good way for them to come back and make more purchases. So what I did is I took the concept of spare change that I had originally faced. I took the concept of cashback that I've had learned at Jumia. I put them together, and I decided to work on an idea on a company that I would create later. Fast forward, after Jumia, I worked in 2 different companies, 2 different startups, and it got to a point where my entrepreneurial DNA told me to leave everything and to start my own business. So I launched my own company. And launching my own company my goal was to fix the spare change issue and also raise or boost the purchasing power of African consumers. So I did some research, and I found out that 80% of merchants' payments in Francophone Africa are still cash-based, meaning we don't really use cards and we don't really use mobile money for merchant payments in Francophone Sub-Saharan Africa. So I thought building this product would be a very good opportunity, and the challenge was big because it was affecting 14 countries and 500 million people. So I created Koree, and before I started to create Koree, I had self-doubts, right, as all the founders would have. It got to a point where I had little voice in my head telling me, you shouldn't start your own company, you can't do it. But what I did is I actually act my own self and actually act those self-doubts by thinking of the first successes that I had managed to achieve in my younger career. Thanks to those successes, I was able to successfully launch my application. The fun in building a company is it is a personal battle, and it's also an external battle, right? Because you have to combat self-doubts, and then you have to face all the obstacles that you could find launching a business. The first obstacle that I faced was the fact that I was not technical, and I was trying to build a fintech company, right? So what I did was gather a team of developers which I couldn't really assess their level because I was not technical and I couldn't really see if they were good or not. But still, I gathered some developers and I asked my friends on how to make the best technical decision possible. That led us to being able to create a product within 6 months and launching it on both App Store and Play Store. Thankfully, we did it right, and the app picked up as soon as it got out, to the point where we were able to get thousands of users. We were able to close dozens of deals with merchant partners. We even were able to raise our pre-seed rounds, all of this within our first year of activity. So I'm just going to finish by saying that it is a challenge to have all these tags and to be building in Africa as a female founder. But I would say the biggest obstacle that I faced is building in Cameroon, which I think is very difficult because there's no bedrocks, right? You have to build on something that does not exist. So you have to build your bedrocks, and then you have to build your product on top of it, which is very difficult. But thankfully, as mentioned before, we have this concept of luck and faith that happens to be driving us founders. And it's been the case for me. I've been lucky to found team members that are very great and talented and young also. I've been able to get support from local investors, Cameroon Angel Networks, who brought other investors to the journey. And all in all, this has been worth it. Not being from one of the big four companies, which are Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, and Egypt, is quite difficult because we do have less opportunity when it comes to funding, especially Francophone Africa, and also not being from one of the top countries from Francophone Africa, such as Senegal and Ivory Coast. So really, like, we are like at the bottom of the bottom, and I don't have the exact numbers, but I'm sure that we must receive less than 1% of the global investment funds that are being put out. But yet, we still manage to do it. And to answer this question, that is, how am I thriving as an ADHD solo female founder, fintech founder in Africa? The answer is, I just do it. Thank you.